All right. So you are the day after running 100K.
Yep.
Which you started 100K at about 7:30 in the morning.
Well, we got pushed back to 8. So we
Right.
started at 8 o'clock Saturday morning and finished Sunday morning at 6:30.
So it's a whole, yeah.
Yeah.
So by being a day after, you're 2 days after the start.
Yeah. But about, 30 hours.
From the when you actually
Finish.
finish. And for people who aren't familiar with 100K, there's no sleeping. You don't rest.
No.
You just go until you finish.
Yeah. You may doze a few minutes in an aid station camp chair.
I didn't see any of that.
I didn't see it either.
Probably 100K, you don't really see that too often.
Not as much.
I've seen one guy who was, I think, attempting, and his crew wouldn't let him do it.
Yeah.
It was at the party barn. So that's the second to last aid station. Explain how some people probably don't understand.
No.
That maybe people who are familiar with like a 5K probably won't understand the dynamics of when you get to 50K on up.
Yeah. So some races like this will be a point to point. So all 62 miles would be starting at one place and ending somewhere else. This is a loop course. So they make a 31-mile loop. If you're doing the 50K, you'll stop after one loop. If you're doing the 100, you'll do 2 loops. So the start finish area will be an aid station. And then these aid stations were split up roughly about every 5 miles, but you learned some were a little short, like 4.4, and I think our longest was 5.9. So you basically are running from aid station to aid station. They usually keep them within a somewhat short distance of the start finish so that people that are going to support you can go out to all of them without having to drive too far. This one you had to walk to every aid station.
Yeah.
The original Bandera course, you would drive to some. It was a very short drive, but you could drive and park.
Right.
So I don't know what to explain about them.
Well,
the
dynamic of the difference is there's these aid stations. So what is an aid station? So it's like you start this particular course, like you said, wasn't from like one city to another, and there are courses like that where you start in Telluride and end up in
somewhere else.
Yeah,
you don't finish at the same location.
So this one is basically was it a national park, a state park, some sort of park?
Yeah.
With trails.
Yes.
Horrendous trails.
Horrendous. We'll have to explain how we ended up there.
Yeah. But for the sake of what a 100K
is.
Yeah. You start the race at the starting point, which was at the pavilion, the main hub. And then you ran your first part of your race until you get to that aid station. Now you can run through an aid station. You don't have to stop.
You don't have to stop.
Aid stations are obviously there for people, crew members like myself, who are like there for, do you need this? Do you need that? Aid stations also have food and drinks.
Yes. So if you've ever run like a 5K or something like that, your aid station tables probably have water, Gatorade, maybe some oranges or pretzels, but it's pretty slim like that. Aid stations during these kinds of events are insane. I mean, we're talking hot food, tons of drinks. Anything you could need. It's also, to some people, it's going to look so unhealthy because you get in there and they've got 2 liters of Coke and Mountain Dew. But a lot of people need the caffeine, and there's something about the carbonation that just helps a little when you've been taking in whatever it is you consume. Maybe it's just water, or a lot of people will take in like a Tailwind or something that's giving you...
Tailwind is a
That's what I was saying. Something that gives you calories and carbs and electrolytes all in a liquid. So I was drinking that out of my hydration vest the whole time. And they also have that at the aid stations for this race. So I didn't have to bring my own. They could refill. So they have basically everything you could need. There's usually medical as well. This one didn't have like full med tents, but they could get somebody up there for whatever you needed. Yeah, I don't know. They had some pretty cool stuff too, like the one aid station that was called Windmill for crew members. It was a 1 mile uphill hike, and at night they had a big fire going outside, so that was pretty cool for you to just chill out by that fire because it was really cold.
Got to hang out with some peeps, made some friends.
Yep. But volunteers...
Let's be clear. I went about 5 miles.
You did.
About half of those accidentally because I got lost.
Yeah. But aid stations...
Finding the aid stations.
Aid stations at these kind of events are big. I mean, we're talking big tents, all the food. The volunteers are immediately on you. They want to do everything for you.
Very cool.
Because they know what you just went through to get there, and they want you to have to do nothing. They're going to refill your bottles for you. They're going to bring you the foods you need. They're going to check on your well-being. Because, I mean, people can get themselves in a bad situation, being very low on calories, being dehydrated, becoming a little delirious. So sometimes they'll ask you, you won't realize they're doing it, but they'll ask you your name. Just little things like that to make sure you're still answering questions coherently.
As you're explaining this, some of the differences to me, one thing I'm thinking about is like when you're doing 5Ks, 10Ks, you're usually doing certain races that are pretty predictable on the environment that you're running on, street courses. Maybe you're doing some trails, but you know the trail system. It's pretty straightforward. So you can it's less endurance and more how fast can I go? Or what I've noticed with the trail, like when you're in this situation, and we can talk about why it switched, but you were originally supposed to run in Bandera. And so you could have seen how well you had done over last year's. Last year you ran Bandera 50K. This was you were supposed to do the 100K this year at Bandera. And then at the last second, literally the week of, they switch courses and you get switched to this course. So now you don't have anything compared to. It's not a personal record sort of thing. It is much more of an endurance. And that's why I find with some of these races, unless you've done them so many times that you know the course, it's all about adversity. It's all about the unpredictable and how fast can you go, but really how much can you endure?
Yeah.
And this one really was like that. So that's kind of the difference when I'm looking at this. It's like, okay, people who do 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, you're usually in a more predictable situation. And so you can do personal records. What was your time? Yeah. This was about just flat out endurance.
Yeah.
Resilience, I should say. So that to me is the difference with this, I guess, psychologically with these 50K, 100K races.
Yeah.
I'd also say, like, just to kind of break down for some people like me who's less familiar with this, you have crew members because you need crew members. I mean, there's people, we saw people in Javelina, for example, this one girl. Javelina was a 100-mile race.
Well, they do 100K also. But...
Yes, but it's a 100-mile race that's popular. People know it. They know the course. She just showed up. She just did it. Didn't have a crew. If she stopped they stop every 20-mile loop. She would stop. She may change shoes once. She knew what she needed to eat and drink, but she had that at the aid station. She literally just had a backpack. She just left there and she just ran. So you don't necessarily need a crew member.
No, especially if you've done this and you know you're fueling, you know what you're going to need. And then you can pack drop bags as well. So if you're not going to have anybody else, you know, you had in the backpack extra socks, shoes, everything I thought I might need. If you don't have anyone to do that, you can pack bags and you just duct tape them, your name, your bib number, and what aid station you want it at. That usually tell you. They'll take them to 2 or 3 different aid stations. So you'll have a bag dropped at that aid station so that when you get there, you just get out whatever you need because you don't have a person coming to do that. So you totally can do it alone. There's tons of people that have never had anyone with them. I talked to a guy at the start who said his sister was out wandering around and she said, "What are you going to need me to do?" And he goes, "I don't have a clue because I've never had anyone before."
Yeah.
He's like, "I might not even want to talk to you."
Yep.
But you can have bags dropped. So you'll make it work, but it is nice knowing you're coming in to see a familiar face.
Well, then I was going to break down nice. So there's also, you have at a certain point, you can pick up a pacer.
Mm-hmm.
So he paced you. So Jonathan flew out just to pace you, which is amazing. Friend to do something like that. But so then you would, after the first 50K, so the 50K people don't get pacers, do they?
No.
Okay. So if you're doing 100K after 50K, which at this race was one big loop, you can pick up a pacer. Mm-hmm. You didn't get a pacer until after your first.
I did a loop and then I did the first section.
5 miles.
Yeah. So I think I had probably done about 36 miles.
And then Jonathan
I picked up Jonathan.
Yeah. And he paced you through that. And then he had to go. And then I stepped in at the last section. 5-6 miles, about 5 miles, 5.5 miles.
And the last section, I think, honestly, was the worst.
I accidentally being on the zip, I don't know if that was the worst. Because here's what I would say about that last section. It at first to explain to someone, if you ever been on a trail where all you're doing is looking down and making sure you don't roll an ankle, you're going on constant declines and inclines, it's just rocks. That was half of that last mile. Last section.
At least half.
So your full concentration is on not falling, not tripping, not rolling ankle. You're not jogging.
No.
At that point.
No.
You're just, but it did open up a little bit, maybe the last mile and a half, 2 miles.
Every now and then, but they were such small spurts.
Yeah.
You couldn't ever get in a good.
It was hell.
It was hell. Well, now when I look back to between my first loop and second loop, my miles at the end of the first loop and the end of the second loop were so much slower than everything else. You can tell the terrain was just, because even in the first loop, I was still fairly fresh. And that last section was.
You hit your first, so you did one loop, so you're on your second half. And we missed you.
Yeah.
At one of the aid stations because you did that one so fast. That was amazing to me.
Well, that's when I realized, because everyone kept saying some people had been on this course before because they did it in 2019 out there as well. Or they were just locals and they've been on these trails. But people had said Windmill was the first 2 aid stations. Mm-hmm. They were both called Windmill. They're at the same place, A and B. People said, "Oh, Windmill's hell because of the climbing, but after that, it's easy." And I ran into someone. They're like, "That person's full of crap." Mm-hmm. Windmill, the 2 sections were tough because of the climbing. They were big climbs, just back to back.
But they were just climbs, right?
They weren't
just rocks.
It was rocky, but not the kind of rocky where you're just constantly trying not to fall or jack your toes into stuff. Mm-hmm. They just were, not flat ground. So that seemed tough.
Pull that mic a little closer to you.
That seemed tough because of the climbing. But once I had gone through the whole course once, and so I was starting it again, I was doing that first section up to Windmill, I realized, oh, this isn't the toughest. The climbing is, but not compared to some of the terrain later on. So when I did that, I'd finished the first loop, and I was doing the first section of the second loop. I did go faster than you guys anticipated because I was like, I got to make up some ground here while I can because I know what's coming later. So I got to that aid station, and it was a little short. That was like, I think a 4.5 maybe, as opposed to a 5-ish or a little over. So I still ran when I could. I felt fine to run.
And that was you were past halfway.
Yeah.
30,
So that was like
30-ish
roughly miles 31-ish to
yeah, that was insane.
to
I was shocked.
35, 6, I guess.
So Jonathan hadn't picked up on you yet. You've run your first loop, and we had tracked basically how fast you're running to each aid station. My mistake as a first timer crew member was I wasn't tracking the mileage between each aid station. I was more averaging it out because it was kind of averaging out, but I think it was averaging out accidentally.
Well, yeah.
You didn't know what to expect, so you probably were pretty even keel. So me and Jonathan went back to our cars. Our walk to Windmill A was a mile up, and it was a mile uphill the whole time. So we knew it's going to take us at least half a mile to trek up that hill. So we predicted
half an hour.
Yeah, to trek up that hill to meet you out here. So we had said, well, it's going to take us half an hour. She's arriving. She's going to arrive about an hour and a half from when you left the pavilion, the main pavilion, because you'd finished that first loop. We knew you were in good spirits. That didn't surprise us.
Yeah.
But we'd seen your time, and we knew you're 30 miles in.
Yeah.
So we didn't lollygag. We jumped. We got out of the car, head right up the hill. We didn't get lost, nothing. And then when I got into service range,
up at the top of Windmill.
Yeah. Like on the way when we got close, my phone, my watch kept going off. My phone kept going off. I didn't look at it first. I wish I would have so I could text you back. But you had texted me. I would say that we were predicting you to be at an hour and a half. I think you got there in an hour and 15.
Yeah, Jonathan said you guys were planning on 90 minutes, and I was up there in 75.
Insane.
Yeah. I just knew I was in good spirits. My legs felt decent.
Yep.
And I knew that was a section I could cover. I knew what was coming later. So I just boogied as best I could. So that's when Jonathan was going to jump in and pace me. Because I didn't have him start with me right at the beginning of the second loop. Because I'm like, I'm still doing good. Just, hang out for what's going to be later. I'll do another section. Meet me up at Windmill. Well, I get up to Windmill. And I still was doing pretty good. But you get low on calories and just kind of beat down. You start to get a little emotional at times. You go through like 12 different hells during it all. You'll go down, you'll come up, all kinds of stuff. So I had been doing really well, but I got up there and I was just like expecting to see you, thinking I was going to grab Jonathan. I was low on calories. Luckily, a really nice aid station lady. She was making peanut butter and jellies. But I was like, can I just get a massive spoonful of peanut butter? So she found a disposable spoon and I probably took in 400 calories of peanut butter, which turned me around. But I looked around by the fire. It was starting to get dark. I had just put my headlamp on. So I'm like looking around, trying to wait for you guys. I had service, so I text you. Because there were two sides to Windmill, A and B. I'm like, maybe they're standing on the other side. Didn't see you. And I'm like, well, I got to go. I can't dilly-dally around here. So, because that can be a problem. You hang out too long at aid stations and you get too comfy, or sometimes it's just time to go. So you
did that very well.
I just texted you and was like, I don't see you. I'm here. I got to go. I'll catch you on the other side of Windmill.
Yeah. On that note, you did that very well.
Knowing when it's time to go.
Well, it's not even knowing when it's time to go. It's that you did not allow yourself to get relaxed at aid stations, which if you're not familiar with these races, is a huge temptation. Like there's that's part of the mind games is the fact that not only are you going, you're attempting to finish 62 miles in this really bad weather. Things never were looking good in this race. No. Like the first part was extremely hard right off the bat. You had no idea where you're going. You weren't familiar with the race. The weather was bad. But in all of that, you have aid stations and you can relax. And aid stations usually had heaters and that's such like it adds to it. It adds to the temptation of quitting.
Especially because once you get into one, they have food, drink, maybe a chair, so you might sit down.
Music playing.
Music playing.
It's like a little bit of a party.
It is. I mean, they want to uplift your spirits when you get there, because they know you might have just gone through a lot to get there, and you're in a low. They're like, we're gonna pick you back up. And what you said, it could be very easy to want to quit there, is because when you're there, if you say, okay, I'm done, that's it. Okay, you're done. Especially, they might send out a golf cart or whatever the train's like, maybe a side-by-side, to come get you even and take you to your car. But once you start again, until you get to the next aid station, that's it. You can't pull out in the middle of the course. There's no one there to do anything about it. If you're...
you'd have to tell another runner and wait for them to get to the next station. I actually passed someone who that happened.
That crossed my mind at one point, like, about if you were hurt or something, because there was so many chances to get hurt on this course. I thought I would just have to sit down and wait for another runner to pass me and be like, when you get to the next aid station, can you tell them I'm sitting on the course and I need help? I don't even know, honestly, what they do, because a lot of that terrain, like, someone would have to come on foot and
help you get
and
to the
just
next
try to
place.
help you get out.
Yeah, so we're at Windmill. I said meal. And we missed you because you smoked that part. So at that point, I'm thinking, well, there was a couple of things which I knew. You were doing the, your spirits were good. You were doing the aid stations very well. Like, I could see it in your eyes. You would not let yourself chill. I think there's a picture on Instagram that I posted just to give people a reference if they've seen that. And that's of you with a spoon or something. That was when you'd returned after your first, well, not your first. So when you missed us.
Yeah. So then I came up to Windmill B. They gave me mashed potatoes.
Yeah. So you ate mashed potatoes.
On the spoon.
And again, you were still in good spirits. So what happened was, I lost my train of thought, but we missed you. You go. Spirits still seem good, even though you were down that we weren't there. Sorry.
It turned around quickly.
And then Jonathan feels bad because he's supposed to start pacing you there. So it's getting dark.
Oh, it was dark.
It was dark. By the time you left, it was dark. And Jonathan goes, I'm going to catch her. I'm going to jump in and I'm going to catch her. So he gets ready. It was so cool. He gets ready. He was so excited. He was like a little kid. It was so funny. I'm like, he's going to catch her. He's looking forward to this. He's dying to catch her.
It's fun to be on that side. I don't know if...
Well, he's fresh.
He's fresh.
He can run, man.
And I've done it for him. It is fun to be on the other side because the pressure for you is lower. The community, like, it's just cool to hang out, but the pressure for you is low, and you just get to jump in and help your friend.
You're helping your friend. Yeah,
it is fun. You're great. Excited.
So he make sure he gets going in the right direction, because that's like a figure 8 loop.
Yeah. He said he asked one of the ladies, when you leave here the first time, what direction do you go? And she told him, and he was just gone.
Well, so I'm hanging out with I met some friends in the campfire area during that time, because I'm there like 2 hours by myself. So it's either you're going to hang out by yourself or you're going to hang out with the fire pit, and you're going to meet people. There's music playing. We talk about music. It was fun.
But so he leaves.
Turned out a couple people were from St. Louis, which was just like us, just outside of St. Louis. So when I was there after he left, someone went the wrong way, and luckily one of the ladies that was with the fire, I didn't catch it. I thought there were just two people kind of milling around, because we would do that. You're bored, and it turns out they were runners heading the opposite direction.
Oh, crap!
So they would have looped the opposite way. Anyway, they called him, but so he jumps on and goes, and so then. When does he catch up with you? This is so funny to me.
This was funny. And so I was leaving, and I still had enough service that you text me and said, he's going to catch you. And I was like, no, I'm fine. And you're like, two ladies gone. And it was almost funny because on the runnable sections, I ran, and I was like, I'm going to run from him. I knew he'd catch me. He's so fast,
so
and
funny.
he was
It's
fresh.
Like some new way of encouraging people. I'm gonna pace you, but I'm gonna let you go.
Yeah.
Don't let me catch you.
Don't let me catch you.
That's so fun.
So I knew he was coming. I knew he'd catch me, but I was like, I'm gone.
Yeah.
I'm gone. So I did what I could. So the trails often kind of zigzagged. So you'd hear people either in front of or behind you, but it feels like they're next to you because the trails are like passing each other.
Mm-hmm.
They're just kind of doing this. Yeah. So I had just gotten to a part that wasn't real runnable, and I started walking, and I heard some lady make a sound like oh, and then her mumble something, and I heard Jonathan go, no, I'm fresh. I'm a pacer. I'm just trying to catch my runner. So they were baffled by how fast he was going, because at this point, everyone's on their second loop, and they're in their second section of their second loop. So, we're far in there. It's nighttime. People are tired. They're exhausted. So the fact that he was like sprinting, they were baffled. So I heard him. I was like, oh, he's coming.
He had to love doing that.
Yeah.
So at that point in the race, so I'm up there at the fire pit, and this is where people are dropping, because I understand why too, because it was not what they expected, and it was hellish.
It was hell.
And a lot of young people weren't ready for what was coming. And so you run your first 50K, maybe you talk yourself out into going again.
A lot of people did not. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't.
I actually wrote down some numbers.
Yeah, dropped there, and then they run that first loop. They get back to windmill for the second aid station to go out again. And like there were even when I was there was probably 3 at least people that's I'm done. And now I like, you got to think, you're just crossed the halfway point. Mm-hmm. It's dark. It's really cold and windy. You're tired. You're hungry. You're probably burning through calories and trying to keep up, like you said. And then you're not even close to finish. You know that your finish time is going to be sometime around
the morning,
just before sunset. And for some of those people, sunrise. And for some of those people, it's probably going to be after sunrise. The mental resilience it takes to say keep going is outstanding. And that's part of these races. Is maybe all the part of the races is that mental resilience. So you get it. So I'm standing there at a fire pit, and this young guy comes up next to me at the fire pit. It was so funny. He was so casual. And I got like one leg up on a rock, just chilling. And he comes up and he puts one leg up on a rock, and he mumbles something. But I knew it was something to the effect of, I don't have any legs left. Like he was confessing to me for some reason. Maybe he saw my gray hair and my beard and needed a father figure at the moment. And I said, how you doing? And he was like, I'm done. I'm not doing good. And I go, now this is weird because I don't know this guy, and the nature of this thing is you don't want it to discourage people, but you kind of have to read people too. And I mean, with you, that last, was it 5 o'clock in the morning? We haven't ate, we haven't slept, and we're,
on our last section. It's about 4:30.
And everything I thought it would be, I had to reread of how do I help her get through this. But anyway, so this really young guy, and I go, you sure? He goes, I shouldn't have done that section. He goes like, I should have just stopped in the first one. I go, I'm like, are you sure you want to quit doing this? Don't know this guy from Adam.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah. He goes, I got a pregnant wife down there waiting for me. I told her not to trek up here for that reason. And he goes, it's time for me to go. And at that point, I'm like,
he was being very rational.
Yes. And I said, and he goes, do you know John? I don't know what the guy's name is, but he's like, yeah. I go, no, I don't know who it is. He's like one of the co-owners or something of Hoka. Turns out he goes, I went to school with him. He goes, I saw him doing all these races, and I was like, I at least got to try this. And I go, wait a minute, what was the furthest you run before this? He goes, oh, I just kind of laughed. He was like 20 miles. And I go, wait a minute. I said, so you have never ran this far. You signed up for 100K? I go, let me tell you, since you've never done this before, this was a hell one to try, and you're going to do this again sometime. Yeah. I'm like, go home.
Go home.
And so it was sweet. He'd tell me anything. He was like, yeah, I asked, how many kids you got? He's like, I got 3 kids, 1 on her way. I go, what's the ages? 7 on down. I'm like, look, man, you'll do this again. You got plenty of time in your life. And then I get to tell him about how much I love being a dad. And I go, look, and tell him my story. At this point in my life, this is what I would tell you. He did not want to leave me. It was the sweetest thing in the world.
That's how it is at this stuff.
So we're at the fireplace, the fire pit. And he turned to walk away for a second one time. Then he came back and I'm like, your pregnant wife's down there, man. Just go. You know, he's from right outside of Austin. He told me where they were staying, and I'm like, just
go tell the lady your bib number and get to your wife.
Just go. Yeah. I'm like, got plenty of time. Yeah. Most important thing is being a dad.
And you did great.
You did great. Yeah. But he hated it. He just told me because I hated it because I was miserable. I'm like, well, this was a miserable.
It was miserable.
I said there'd be better times. Yeah. Look, the thing that seems to be cool about these races is that there's good people, and you get to see really cool parts of the country. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, you just signed up for a dickhead of a course this time. It's the only way I can describe it.
Yeah. I mean, the original Bandera course is tough and rocky. This was not the same.
Yeah.
To just try to generalize it, last year...
Let me cut you off. Uh-huh. Since you did Bandera and you did this one now, if Bandera, on a scale of 1 to 10, what was the difficulty level of Bandera just as a course, not the length, but just overall the course? And then on a scale from 1 to 10, what was the difficulty of, what was this called? Camp Eagle.
I mean, I'm still such an amateur too. I don't have maybe as much to compare to, but Bandera, I'd say, maybe 6 out of 10. It's very rocky. There's climbing. But I made it through the 50K well and in good spirits. Mm-hmm. So on the original Bandera course, I did the 50K last year in just over 7 hours, 7:19, and felt great. I played it fairly conservative because it was unknown to me, but now I'm like, oh, I could have pushed that course. It was your first time. It was my first time. I had run 1 road marathon prior to that. Other than that, I didn't have this kind of experience with this distance running. So original course, 50K, 7:19. I planned this year to complete the 50K portion, so the first half, in about 7 or maybe 6.5 to 7. I thought I can do that. That's reasonable. So then I would have 10 hours to do the second loop, knowing you slow down because you're just tired. And the original Bandera course, even people that have gone on to be pro runners, they don't ever negative split that course. So they don't ever do the second lap faster than the first. It's just not feasible. But I was like, well, if I can do the first lap in 7 hours, I'll have 10 hours to do the second lap and still qualify. You get a lottery ticket into Western States. So I was like, that shouldn't have been a problem.
A quick explanation. What's Western States?
Western States is the oldest, most prestigious 100-mile race. Okay. You can only get in at this point if you're invited, an elite runner, or you get in on a lottery.
Through qualifications.
So to qualify, you have to have run. There are certain races that are qualifiers. And this is one of them. So if you do the 100K at Bandera in 17 hours or less, you get 1 ticket into the lottery.
Okay. So back to the original question. Mm-hmm. What do you rate the second one?
For me, this was 10 out of 10.
Okay, so 10 out of 10, from 5 out of 10 to 10 out of 10.
Like 6.
What
to
was your
10.
50K time? You said 7 hours, 19 minutes.
Yes.
So what was your 50K time for this race?
Over 9 hours.
So there's a 2-hour difference between what you did at Bandera and now you're much more in shape.
Yes.
I'm
way more trained for this than I was last year.
Yeah.
I've been steadily training pretty much since last year.
Yeah. The thing that's cool, me and Jonathan talked about this. I don't want to go into detail about it, but this reminds me of just how the endurance racing thing is cool, because if someone who is a runner, is a more established runner, would hear your times, they'd be like, well, that wasn't. But it's like, you don't get to jump from A to B. You only first get to start finishing.
Just finish. And then you get better. But it takes time. There's no way. And there are other things like that. Maybe even if you're naturally gifted at certain things, you don't get better unless you put in the time and repetition. It's a sacrifice. Whatever the field is. But that's one of the things about the endurance. It doesn't lie. You are where you're at because of the time you've put into it. And it's not only about the physical time you put into it. Are you ready to get punched in the face, kicked in the balls, however you want to say it, multiple times through a 24-hour period? And that's for me, from an outsider who's not doing it. It's just yeah. I mean, what else to say about it? Like when people from the outside look and say, it's hard to understand. Like 62 miles, you finished 6:30 in the morning, but you still don't understand the in between. Like you don't, unless you've been through something very difficult in life, like that in between period. Like for me, pacing you that last section, I thought I would have felt horrible if you had did that last section by yourself, because it was crazy. And I thought I was walking out of that aid station. I thought I was going alone. I was going.
Yeah, you were going to do it. Like,
I wasn't quitting with 5 miles to go.
So I had been really sick the week before. So there was a chance that I wasn't even going.
Yeah.
If Jonathan, something happens and he doesn't go and you were going to do it.
Because the weather was bad here on Friday. And I was like, he said something about if my flight gets canceled or delayed, I'll drive. I'm like, I'm not asking you to drive there. That's so far. I'll be fine. He's like, no, I'm driving. Because he knew you were really sick. There's a chance you couldn't go to. And he was like, even for the sheer aspect of not letting you experience the finish line alone.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that makes you emotional. Like, that alone. He's like, you shouldn't experience the finish line the first time alone. So either, he was determined to get there. You were determined to get better. You were so sick. But there was a chance neither of you could go. And I was like, I'm going to be fine. People do this. They get their drop bags. I feel like I'm generally pretty mentally tough. I was like, I will make it. Now that I've been on that course, I know I've told both you guys this numerous times. I would not have made it without you. I'm serious. This was just not a course that I needed you guys. I needed you.
It was tough.
It was really tough. The amount of people that DNF'd, which means they quit early, they didn't finish. It's insane. It's insane. And these, tons of them I talk to. You talk to people like crazy at this stuff. It's like, as soon as you show up, people are your friends. It doesn't matter. Because they know what we're all about to go through. You skip the casualties, you're just like, you go straight in.
Yeah.
I heard people out there telling each other life stories they've never met till right now. But I talked to tons of people, especially coming into the finish of the first lap. This was not their first 100K. Like, they've done it and they were like, I'm out. I'm stopping here. I'm done. One guy I had talked to tons, he was younger than me, like 20 of them come do stuff like this. This was not his first 100K. We'd talk off and on while we were going. At one point, we came out of a pretty tough section, and he stopped at a bend and was like squatted down. And I was like, "You okay?" He's like, "I'm fucked. I'm fucked." And he did. He pulled out at the halfway. He's like, "No."
Yeah.
It was really tough.
Yeah. It's one of those things that eliminates motivation. Motivation's not a factor.
No.
You're done.
At that point, it's
I don't know what mile that is for everyone. I'm sure everyone has a point where motivation will take them. But that's a life lesson to me. I'm like, that's everything in life. If you're waiting for motivation to make changes in your life, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Your life's not going to change.
No.
It changes through sacrifice and determination when you know, whatever it is, you keep your fucking feet moving.
Yeah. And if you want to talk about motivation with like running, because people be like, "Oh, I wish I had your motivation." I'm like, that's not it. That's not going to take you. There going to be a large majority of days where you don't want to do it at all. If you're not going to put your head down and just go, then you're not going to make it.
You, not to be crude, but you almost got to tell yourself to fuck off.
Pretty much.
It's because it's hard-headed determination. It's resilience. That's why, say you take like the David Goggins in the world, and he annoys some people in some certain things, but for him it was a lifesaver, and that's his message. It's like, you got to tell yourself to fuck off. And that isn't like, for me, it's not about running. Maybe someday it will be, but like for now, I have other things I want to do that I would need to apply that to, because your mind is going to lie to you, and if you don't know by this point in life that your mind is the greatest liar, is the greatest gaslighter on you, you're screwed. You got to know that.
Yeah. Oh, your mind will tell you not to do anything hard.
No.
This is hard. We don't need to do this. Anything in life.
Any changes that is going to make the better part of you come out, there's going to be resistance, and it's going to be you. And you may say it's your parents or your job or you may say it's all of that. As long as you're doing that, know that the resistance is winning, because you're buying the lie.
Yeah.
You're grifting yourself. It reminds me of, this is off topic, but it reminds me of a conversation I had with someone who's had a lifelong struggle with drugs, basically, and lying and all the things that usually come with stuff like that. And he was saying, like, if I just had people, as long as I have people that believe in me, and I just have this and I just have that, and saying all these things, and I just stopped. I said, no. I said, then you're not changing.
No.
Because those things that you think you're saying that you need, you don't need.
Mm-hmm.
You are what you need. And those things that you keep saying, if I just have this, if I just have this, you're just setting yourself up for the reason why you're going to back down.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have the support, or you didn't have whatever it is. Anyway, but I just read a quote. I wish I had it. It's on my phone, but it basically said, save motivation for the fools who aren't going to do anything.
Yeah. I mean, there will be things that will initially motivate you, that maybe get you started, like seeing someone else complete something. You're like, I'm so motivated. It's yes. But to actually do it yourself, no, it's going to take.
And that just doesn't mean that it looks like the same thing to everyone, but to develop a hierarchy of value system of what actually matters to you, figuring out who you are and what matters to you with time, basically. What are you going to invest time in?
Yeah.
And then when you don't feel like it, if it's valuable to you, you should still be doing it. It's not about, and that's hard for all of us, like,
it is.
But it's not about how you feel. That's what these races do, because you feel like shit. Well, you know how it was, like, just building up to the training alone.
The training's worse than the actual
you're going to
race
ask
most
yourself,
of the time.
why? Why am I doing this?
Yep. Jonathan and I talked about this on course, but the training starts to feel really unfun sometimes. Especially, I was in a pretty long training block. This was new for me. I had I mean, I had been training on my own pretty much probably since this race last year was in January. I probably kind of played it low through January, February, but by like March, I had some goals in my head, running goals. They were up, and so all this time, but the training will start to wear you down, and you think, why? When my alarm's going off at 2:30 in the morning, you're like, why am I doing this? It's almost, like I said, it's almost worse than the race because it lasts for so long. The race, like, it ends 24 hours.
Yep.
Like, it ends.
Yep.
The training's tough.
And if for anyone who helps someone racing,
Yes.
the thing that's different about that is, like Jonathan going there, making the sacrifice of time and money to come help you. That's amazing because it's not a hockey game.
Yeah.
You're not going to watch a set time of hour.
Yeah.
It's
like you're just in.
Yeah. And it's a long day.
Yeah.
It's a long period of time, and I don't know, it's just wild.
Yeah.
Like I said, what for me it was fun.
And that's saying a lot because you're not a runner. So
right,
I'm glad it was fun for you still.
It wasn't at the time. It is now looking back at it.
You mean for you it wasn't fun when you were on course with me, or just...
There were times when it wasn't fun.
Oh, yeah.
But that's why now, looking back, that's why it was fun. Just the overall, because it's a lonely day. I had been sick and basically quarantined for like a week and a half, it felt like.
Yeah.
And I hadn't had much human communication at all and contact. And I was basically back there again. But it's like it puts the baby in me in perspective. Also watching you. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it's not about like how hard it was for me physically to do the last 5 miles. Thankfully, I was able to do that. Thankfully, the week, was there a few days before I got sick, I had been, not days, but like I had been doing some walk runs and building my endurance up. Mm-hmm. So I knew I would at least be able to do the last 5. My original goal was to do 20. Dear God.
And now seeing that course, I'm like, oh God, I'm glad there was a backup plan because I would have been worried about you getting hurt.
Well, yeah, thankfully I wasn't so much worried about that. I wish I would have, the circumstances would have happened where I could have continued training before, but it just didn't. So, but I am glad that I'm telling you, if I had do that day before, I don't think I was ready yet, but I think I had clicked enough physically from whatever the sickness was that I could go up. When I went up the first mile hill to meet you at
Windmill,
that's when I knew. I was like, okay, I'm good. And I knew, I was like, if I have to, I can finish this thing for her. Mm-hmm. But even then wasn't expecting it because we didn't realize the time was being pushed back where it was affecting Jonathan's flight.
Yeah, it shouldn't have affected his flight. There were a lot of things that went into that.
But anyway, being in a situation for me where it wasn't fun, but it wasn't about me, was pretty cool. Where I was like, yeah, this isn't fun, but this bitch just went 55 miles. What am I going to say to her?
See, and that is pacer. You sign up to be someone's pacer.
Hungry.
Yeah, you may be hungry, not having fun, and it's not about you, and you just do what you can for them.
But also, I didn't sign up to be a pacer, so I had ate a normal, like a cheeseburger at 5, and I was done.
Yeah. So
I didn't expect that. So this is now like 5 a.m. I hadn't ate anything. I hadn't drink anything.
Yeah.
So thankfully you had a couple things while we're going.
Not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot.
But I had more on me and I didn't realize
it. Hunger pains. I was like, oh God. Like I can't say anything to her. Like what am I going to say to her? Your thighs were burning.
She's just been eating bars and Tailwind all day.
But anyway, pacing you that was fun for me. It was also fun because it was me and you, and I was going to finish this race with you, and I think that's so poetic. Like I said, it's always us.
Yeah.
Going through something hard where it had nothing to do with me at all. But watching what you could make yourself do was so impressive. You were hurting.
I really was hurting.
You walking downhill.
You can't even call it walking. Just little shuffles.
But everything I thought, not everything, that's ridiculously over exaggerated. But what I had to adapt to was, how do I help you? Maybe I wasn't just being there. Mm-hmm. You know, it reminded me of being in birth with Arrow, like figuring out on the fly, like, how do I help someone who's in this much pain do something this beautiful? So it was like,
especially when you know there's nothing you can actually do to make it.
Well, they're only just like things like, do I talk? Do I just try to distract her?
Yeah. Like either way, I can't take the pain. What can I do to just symptomatically like comfort?
Yes. And I don't know what, and I think you were probably going like this up and down with different emotions. So I was only going to there's no way I was going to figure that out. I had in my head, okay, so my strategy going into that was, when I found out I was running, I was like, okay, if I can get her to jog, I knew you were in bad shape at that point. If I can get her to jog 10 steps every once in a while, then that's what I'm going to try to do. But then I get on the actual terrain. Not possible.
I think there were only 2 times we even could.
Yes. I mean, it was literally not possible until some other sections. We did it a couple times. Yeah. And then that gave me an idea of where you're at. I was like, oh God. Like, so then it went, I just walked behind you. We talked, and then I got in front of you. And then, weird thing was, the end became better.
The very end
of this 5 miles.
Probably mile
and a half, maybe even 2 miles. Into that 2 miles got a little sketchy, but not. It was even and out compared to what we were. And I just stopped talking, and I just rolled in front of you, and I didn't look back. I mean, I would glance back, especially if we declined, just to make sure you were okay. But there were some parts of inclines that you caught up with me.
Yeah, the inclines were not as bad for me.
So impressed. You
Climbing was better.
Thighs. Got those mama thighs.
I know. Climbing was better. Descending was bad on me. I could not descend. And also, when you're descending, your toes get pushed to the front of your shoes, and that was just killing me. My toes, from so much of that bracing and descending, my toes were killing me in that aspect. So the descending was getting really hard on me. The climbing wasn't bad. And remember, in one sort of flat section, like, I jogged up to you.
Yes.
And we probably only had less than 2 miles to the finish. So that's why I'm like, I still had that in me. We just didn't have the terrain to do it.
Yeah. So we got, during the bad part of the terrain, we got passed by a group of guys, 2 or 3 guys. And they had sticks.
They had poles.
They had poles that they were walking with.
I had been with them back and forth for
and so
a while.
They passed us, and this is during that last section. And then when the sticks didn't really give them an advantage, we passed them.
Yeah,
so that's what impressed me. It was like, it really was about your climbing down rocks had worn your thighs out.
Down was bad. Yeah.
But outside of that, you still had some wood in the furnace.
Yeah. Yeah, if that last section of the train was different, I definitely could have jogged more. And Jonathan and I jogged little spurts at times too when the train was good, and it was fine.
So if anyone who does understand, you don't, unless you're an elite runner, but even the elite runners, you're not jogging the whole time on a
No, there's stuff that you're hiking.
Yes. There's a lot of hiking, which is a different muscle thing where you got to be able to do both. Yeah. And this one in particular, you had to be able to hike, descend, jog. Like, it was everything. Yeah. There were some sections I came to, I was like, what the heck? Are you kidding me?
I know. I was going through, I don't remember where now, but one chunk, and someone right behind me was like, they even call this trail? Like, I don't, this isn't even.
Yeah.
It's nothing anyone should be coming across.
No. So we'll set the scene a little bit to for people to understand. Like this isn't jogging your local park.
No.
Even if you live in an area that's kind of mountainous, it's not like that. There are certain parts of this terrain that were just so hot. You just like you said, is this even a trail? So how they do it is, I mean, you are on a trail, but because it's so it's unrecognizable sometimes. You wear a headlamp because it gets dark and everyone's gonna be out there in the dark. And because you're out in a park where we're in West Texas, beautiful moon, stars in the sky. It's a beautiful scenery. But there's no lights except the moonlight. No. But the moonlight was so bright you could see your shadow. That was really cool in certain sections. So what they do is certain sections would have arrows and like red like tape almost from tree to tree to show you. And they had these these big reflector lights. And so what you would do is you'd point your headlamp and find that reflector light, and that's how you follow. That's how you find this. Whether unfortunately sometimes I'll look and see how high that reflector was, knowing oh crap, here comes another incline.
Yeah,
I gotta climb up.
People ask me a lot with trail stuff. Well, don't you get lost? I've never fully gotten lost. I know Jonathan has gotten pretty off course before, but it's actually easier at night than during the day, because during the day you're just looking for hanging orange. Whatever you'd call that. And sometimes there's some arrows on a sign, and they may also, like you said, the tape, like cross off. So, don't go this way, like you're going this way. But at night, you can't see random little offshoots that may confuse you during the day. And those reflectors are so bright from your headlamp. You can't miss that either. Yeah. So it's almost easier at night to see where you're going. Except for the ground, but... Yeah.
So we had mentioned this earlier. There was a lot of DNFs.
Yeah.
Do you have the numbers?
Yeah, I do.
So these would be people who...
Didn't finish.
Yeah, they just dropped out during the race. First, do you know how many people were actually in this 100K?
So the 100K had 443 people signed up. There ended up being 231 finishers. So I have 128 DNFs. I might have this math a little off. There were also a couple of people that didn't start. So there's some of those. But
yeah, some people that me and Jonathan asked the booth after you had started. We saw a lot of people's time tags still there that they just...
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, when we pulled in, they delayed the race because there was only one road in.
Let me finish this. So 231 people finished.
Out of how many?
There were 443 signed up.
Basically half people finished.
About half, yeah.
Only half. That's crazy.
There were only 46 females that finished out of 231. There were a lot less females. Originally, like a week out, there were like 490 people signed up and maybe less than 90 females. So it was a very small, which is common, but I mean, this was a small female group, very male dominant, but so out of 231, only 46 females finished. So, that's always fun because the female volunteers just go crazy for the women because there's so few of us. The girl, when I came across the finish line, actually, there was one girl and she, the girls go nuts for the girls. And like, she hugged me and I cried. Okay. So what, you want to talk about the week leading up? What happened with course? Is that what you were talking about?
No, I was just saying that getting to the course that morning, they had to push it back because it was just a shit show.
Yeah, it was.
One road in, like we thought we were doing okay. You eventually had to get out and just start walking to get to the actual course from our car, and there were so many cars behind us still.
So
it was wild. Where
this course is normally held, they had a lot of heavy rain the weekend before and the week leading up, and that park pulled the race's permit on like Monday or Tuesday, right before the race on Saturday. So course gets changed. This is their backup place. You know, a lot of people were like, well, what can we do? Okay. Some people were really mad. That's just whatever. The biggest problem was that a lot of people had lodging in Bandera, where the course usually is, and the drive from Bandera to the new course now was 2 hours. That was what some people said when they were pulling out, too. They're like, I have a 2-hour drive. Like, I can't not sleep for, you know, be awake for 25 hours and then drive 2 hours back to Bandera. Yeah. I can't do it. Mm-hmm. So the course changed. We were able to switch our lodging, luckily, so we were only like a little under 40 minutes from the course. But getting there that morning, we had already the night before driven up there, like checked in, signed, you have to sign waivers to get into the park. We had done that, got this wristband. And coming in, we were on that road to come in by like 6:40. Race starts at 7:30, but it was just one line. They only had one line of cars. Mm-hmm. Cars behind us, I mean, so many. So they were having problems. Like going to a music festival. Yeah, because even people that did the waivers online, for some reason they were coming up as incomplete on this iPad when you're coming in. So people were having to sign this waiver.
I came up incomplete that morning.
Yeah, and we had done it.
And we had done it the night before.
Mm-hmm. And you had a wristband on, and they still made you do it again.
I just think it was chaos.
Yeah.
They did great though.
They do their best.
I think there's complaints like that to be canceled.
They were scrambling. Yeah, that's crazy.
Pull us off was amazing.
It's nuts. They had to make a whole entire new course within a couple of days. Like it's crazy. But so the line coming in was rough. People couldn't get through, and so runners just started jumping out of the cars. As long as they had a driver. We started jumping out and just start getting up to the start line. Well, so a bunch of people jump out, and then we hit this section where there's water running across the road. And it was deep enough. Everyone's socks and shoes would have been wet. Mm-hmm. And it was freezing cold. And there were cars.
Yeah, it was turning into ice.
So cars were driving through it. And then there was a little uphill, and they were getting stuck and sliding. So that was part of the traffic problem, too. Mm-hmm. So, I stop at this water crossing. At this point, there's probably 15 of us all stopped here like, what are we going to do? There were these little logs on the side, but they were wet. Mm-hmm. So it's like, we're going to fall. So that's when everyone started banding together right off the bat. Yeah. And
jumping in the back of the truck.
People that were getting ready to go across the water crossing, they're like, hey, when it's my turn, I'll pop the trunk, and as much of you can slide in to sit, we'll take you.
Yeah. It does remind me of a music festival. Except a music festival is about enjoying art, not endurance, not grueling endurance.
Yeah. So just
which I've been to Bonnaroo, and it was grueling. Like, believe me, by the last day of Bonnaroo, you're like, we did it. It was more like a, can I make it through Bonnaroo? Yeah. Staying in a tent, freaking 100 degrees outside. Yeah. People were walking around naked, showering together. It was nuts. So in that sense, without the jogging, it was very similar.
Yep.
People wearing about the same amount of clothes by the end of it. Crazy.
Yeah, so just getting in was crazy. So we were supposed to start at 7:30. They had to push it back to 8 because people couldn't get up there.
I just had a genius idea, and maybe this is happening. Why don't they have one of these endurance weekends along with a music festival where it's all one thing? You know how much people would party at the end of it?
Well, that's like Jonathan was talking about Run the Rut.
Yeah, the Montana
it's kind of like
right?
that.
Yeah, Big Sky. Mm-hmm. That'd be so fun.
So then the crew people or whatever can have more fun.
Yeah. You're right. So let's change and so you're a day after the race. Mm-hmm. Yesterday, you finish 6:30 in the morning. When you cross the finish line, it's not nearly as romantic as everybody thinks it is because you're done.
Yeah, you're just done.
It's just relief. It's not people partying, celebrating. You just collapse, kind of like you didn't collapse, but I could tell you're emotional. You're about ready to cry.
Oh, I cried.
And then you're basically, let's go.
I want to go home.
Yeah, you don't want to bask. You're just like, let's go. And we had like a 35-minute drive home, and I may have dozed off like 4 times driving. It was exhausting because we've been up.
Yeah.
Drive home, we change, we shower.
Pack our stuff.
2-hour drive to the airport.
Get out.
You sleep most of that time. By the time we get to the airport, you can't hardly walk. Not exaggeration. You were scooting. It was hilarious. You were I felt sorry for you, but it was funny. You were scooting through the airport in pain. And then you have to we had 2 flights to Kansas City, then to St. Louis. You have to be on a plane, locked into a position.
Yeah.
We would let everyone get off the plane
go.
first.
So I knew I was going to be
you're gonna
bad.
be scooting out of there. Thankfully, in Kansas City, we land, and our next gate is right at the gate we just got off. But we
had to scoot to the bathroom.
Scoot to the bathroom. And then we land in St. Louis, and we are literally at the other end of the
furthest
and I thought, oh
gate.
my God.
The furthest gate there is from baggage claim.
I couldn't help you.
No.
Only thing I offered to get a wheelchair. I was like, do you want us to get a wheelchair? You're like, no.
By the time I get there, you'll just already have the bags and we can go.
But today you're feeling a little better. Mentally too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because yesterday I told you, I don't want to talk about if this was fun, if I want to do it again, none of that, because I'm not in a place to answer that, like a rational place. And already today, I'm like, oh, I'll absolutely do it again. You just won't find me on that course ever again. It's not fun to me. Some people, they probably thought it was a blast. They loved that challenge. It was great to them. It's not fun to me.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy that course. And I mean, when we're talking about endurance, there's going to be times you're not enjoying yourself. That's just part of it. But this as a whole, that just wasn't fun for me.
Right. And you do want to do 100K again next, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you want to go faster.
Yeah. And I know I can. I mean, I know I can. That was... Yeah.
So day after, you want to do it again. You're motivated. You're inspired. You inspired yourself. But let's talk about this. Your first long race was a marathon, a miserable marathon in the heat.
It was so hot. I don't do hot.
You did some you have marathons.
Yeah, I had done some halves.
But give me the timeline from that marathon to now.
Okay. So I did my first road marathon at the end of September 2023. Then I did Javelina 50K in January of 24. So maybe about 3.5 months after the road marathon. And then it's been a year.
Not Javelina. That threw me off. Bandera.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. I was thinking
I've
done 20 miles. No. In my head, I was thinking I've done 20 miles with Jonathan at Javelina before. Yeah. So, okay, I'll start this over. Road marathon, September 2023. Bandera 50K, January of 24. Bandera 100K, January of 25.
In 2023 as a whole, what were you doing before September? Were you just kind of jogging to jog?
Yeah. I mean, I knew the basis of marathon training. You know, they needed to build your long run and things like that. But I wasn't following a serious plan. Yeah. I made sure I did a couple of 14, 15 mile runs. And I did the 20 mile that you do about 2 or 3 weeks before. And then you kind of go down. But as a whole, I was only running like maybe 20 to 28 miles a week, most of it pretty casual and just building that long run, but nothing like serious.
So that's September 2023. You decide, I'm going to take this further. I'm going to do a marathon. You sign up. You don't get ready. You don't wait for your good. You just do it.
You just sign up.
That I think our family has adopted in just about every avenue.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Yeah.
Figure it out later. So you do that. And then you immediately say, I'm doing the 50K in Bandera.
Yeah, immediately. I don't even know if I had done the marathon yet. And I was like, I'm signing up for that.
We did. I remember we talked about it. And I said, yeah, do it. Just sign up for it. Okay. Well, you're not going to get ready for it unless you sign up for it. Yeah. There's no use. Why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
Outside of just pussying out.
Yeah.
So sign up for it. So then October, November, December, January, we're in Bandera.
And I really didn't train much different from the marathon at the end of September till Bandera in January. The only thing I did is we started going to that hill every Monday. So I just made sure to consistently run this hill to practice that. But I still wasn't running a crazy amount of miles every week or anything super special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're just basically saying, I'm not waiting until I'm really good. I'm just signing up and I'm doing it. September and then January Bandera. And September wasn't good.
No.
It was a really hot, concrete, blazing sun run.
Yeah.
That it just wore you out.
Oh, I felt terrible. That's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, I ran my first marathon and it was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
The race itself was not, I wasn't experienced, but it was very hot. I just don't do well in the heat. My time was horrendous. It was like 95 degrees when I crossed the finish line. And I crossed the finish line, sit down for a minute, have a drink, and then I like couldn't use my legs again. And we came home that day and I basically slept a large portion of the rest of the day. I felt terrible. It drained me. Everything was awful. But then we go to Bandera in January, so a couple months later, and finished that course. I finished like with light in my eyes, you know?
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to. Obviously weather played a big part of this, but September was miserable. But you kept your feet moving between September, getting ready for that 50K.
Yeah.
50K was in Bandera. The day before the 50K, I think Jonathan ran his 100K. It was like 60 degrees.
They had, cold in the morning, but during the day it was like 60 and sunny. It was beautiful.
Next day, freezing.
It was like sleeting.
I mean, you literally finished in sleet.
Yeah.
That year.
Yep.
But you were so light. I don't mean like physically, but like your spirit was so light at every aid station in Bandera. I'm like, she's going to do this. She's going to do this. She's going to do this. She's going to do this.
That was fun. That was a really fun race. If I had to pick, that's been my most fun race. Like,
and
enjoyable.
I would say this one, your spirit stayed light until the back half.
Yeah.
About a quarter to maybe about 2 aid stations in to the back half. Then I started noticing you're in a new territory of your life at this point.
Because windmill A and B.
You didn't experience that in the 50K.
No. Second lap, windmill A and B, I was still that's when I text you. I had gotten there too quick. And then Jonathan catches me. We get to windmill B. Still okay. They gave me some mashed potatoes and we're still good. I don't remember which aid station I started kind of going down a little, but I remember sitting at Party Barn, which is the last aid station before the finish on the second lap. That's when they gave me tater tots and coffee. And I just could feel I was just zoning out. And I was just,
you were hurting too. I
was hurting.
Legs, and you were like,
Yeah. I was physically hurting. I know at one point coming into there and I was with Jonathan and he said something to me and I was like, I know, I'm physically hurting. It hurts. He goes, I know it hurts. Because I tried so hard not to be like everyone knows it hurts. You don't need to wind everyone that it hurts. And like that's when I realized, I said it out loud because he's like, I know it hurts. So yeah, I was at that last aid station. I was physically hurting. I was down in calories. I just wanted it to be over.
Yes.
And I was thinking I was about to do that last section alone. So I was just like, okay, you're just going to put your head down and finish.
Yeah, because when I walked out on the path with you, you said to me, oh, are you doing this with me?
Yeah. I thought you were just walking back out to get where you needed to go.
No, because I said to you, I could probably just mumble it while you're suffering there. I was like, okay, I'm
zoned out.
Going with you. Yeah. Here's a thought from, I was thinking that I probably, I don't even know if it's something you would say out loud in the moment, but I've thought this with someone else who's gone through some life turmoil. I thought this with you. I thought if I had to have a tough conversation with you while we we're going to do it, one of the things I wanted you to know was, hey, our kids are going to need to know that when life gets fucking tough, you can do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this.
Yeah.
Because I think we don't realize sometimes, well, it kind of gives you clout too. We're like, oh, life's tough. You don't think I've been through a tough situation in life? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think for whatever reason, our culture gets so self-absorbed that we don't realize there's a bigger reason, especially when you're a parent, that we do everything, or that we try our best to make it through something, or we try our best to succeed at something, no matter if you look stupid over and over again. And then sometimes it's just to tell your kids, this is going to happen in your life too. But I want you to know you can X, or to put it in a more romantic kind of way, is your kids are going to need to know that they can slay the dragon too.
Yeah.
And the only way they're going to know that is that you've done it. They've watched you do it. Yeah, maybe that's the best kind of more novel, romantic way to put it. Yeah. And that's kind of maybe a method of thinking about a lot of things. It's like, I know everyone's wired different, so some people are like, oh, whatever, that's stupid. But what if you're, whatever you are, if you have that ambition in you to do more, if you think you should be doing more, if you have that little voice in you says to be more, to succeed more, I don't necessarily mean monetary, but like that little voice isn't going to go away. And the only way you're going to find it out is if you just start chopping away at things and say, take action, I got to do it. And then your kids can see that and see the path that you've put out and say, well, my fucking mom did that. I don't really have much to say about this. Unless I just got to do it. Yeah. You just got to do it. Yeah. You know, I think about that with even emotional things. Like some people are wired bad emotionally. You have to take action so that your kids know that there's action to be taken against those things. So there it is. I don't know. That's what I was thinking while you were at. I never said to you, and I didn't know if I should or not, because excuse me, because I also know in a moment of collapse, I'm not sure words do a damn thing.
Yeah, I might not have really absorbed it at that time.
But I thought to myself, hey, Ara's going to need to know. Mm-hmm. Jordan's going to need to know. Abel's going to need to know that when this shit gets dark and black, you can still keep your feet moving. Yeah. That you do keep your feet moving. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's not even should, it's that you do. Like, that is that last 5 miles. Like you said when we were out there. Well, we're out here now. Yeah. What are we going to do?
Yeah. Like, I was like, at this point, the only way to go home is to get to the finish line so I can get to the car. There's nothing else you can do.
To do. And if you stop, it's just going to prolong how long you still have to take the same damn path. Yeah. But if you stop and you rest over and over again, you know how much longer it's going to take?
Yeah, that's why at some of the aid stations, I would say I just need to start walking. Like, I don't have myself all the way together yet, but I've had some calories and I have some on me, and I know that's going to kick in. Mm-hmm. So I just need to start walking. It doesn't matter if I'm not moving fast yet or whatever it is. Like, I just need to start taking the steps. Everything will come together. You know, there's no other way but to go. So
that's so fucking deep. It is. It's so deep because you like you said, like you're suffering, and you could sit and feel better for a moment. Yeah. But you're still going to have to get up. Or you're going to have the energy to get up and get your feet moving again. But if you just like it's that maybe you can't run, but
can you walk?
But if you can just keep taking those steps, maybe the person who ran is sitting on the sidelines. Yeah. Because for whatever reason they didn't keep their feet moving, and you could pass that person if you just keep your feet moving. You have a better chance of hitting the finish line quicker.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew if I would have sat there until I felt all the way better, like, you're just wasting time. Just go. Just move your feet. You're never going to feel all the way better until it's over, honestly. So I knew I had done the right things to bring myself back up. So I just needed to go. Yeah.
And that's why I couldn't say anything to you, because I'm like, I know it's been a long day for me, but it might have been a longer day for her. So I'm not going to complain about another incline.
But the crewing is exhausting in itself because
It's not. It's come on.
but I mean, you were awake for 39 hours or whatever, just like me, and you have to figure out how to get to all these aid stations. You got lost once and missed one because they sent you down the wrong.
I actually went on the trail for like 2 miles, I would say.
Yeah. And then
it wasn't fun.
You poor thing have to endure me there. You have to try and read me mentally. And
yeah, that at least is engaging.
Yeah.
But, no, it was good for me because like, it's one of those moments is like, you got to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, who cares if you're been sick, if you're coughing, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Go. What's going to happen? The worst thing's happened, you're going to get hurt, but you're going to finish this. You're going to be a husband here. You're going to finish this with her, kind of a thing. Which is, again, it's like, it's weird. These weird things that go on, you get exposed.
Yeah.
In a very short time, you get exposed. And then you get the opportunity to deal with the stupid baby shit in your head that's probably been there for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And you're put in a situation to deal with it.
Yeah.
That's why catchphrases don't work there.
You want to go work out some baby stuff in your head? Go to an endurance event.
Yep.
You don't even have to necessarily be the runner, but go volunteer. Like, volunteers pull you out of some stuff.
Yeah.
And to just see people, you realize, like, half the stuff I think about is dumb.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Like, you think about what maybe it just exhausting yourself. That's what people say about exercise too.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people are depressed because they don't exercise. When you exhaust yourself, all the other things like, I don't want.
I compared myself to our dogs during my training block because I was like, I guess if you just exercise me enough, I don't care about much else. Kind of like our dogs. You exercise them enough, they're too tired to act up.
Yes.
They just, that's when they stop doing so much dumb stuff because we just wear them out.
Maybe people would smoke less weed if they exercise. Like, just, you need to relax, go exercise.
You know what? A lot of endurance events
Do both. Be really relaxed.
have Fireball at aid stations. I never saw any Fireball.
Really?
Yeah. It's a common, get a shot of Fireball, warm you up a little bit.
Yeah.
Actually, they were a little light on the hot food in the first half of this. I think maybe with the course change, there's a lot they had to deal with. I don't know if logistically it was hard or getting enough volunteers was hard with the last minute change, but they did really well to pull it out at all. So
cool.
It was great.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
What's next?
I'm not 100% sure. We have some local trail things closer to us, so I think I'll just try and grab those up to keep getting more experience, keep training, maybe do some of the 50Ks just to keep that. I mean, I definitely want to do 100K again. I don't know logistically. We'll have to look when, where, that kind of stuff. So.
100 miles in the peripheral.
I'd probably take a stab at it at some point. I don't know when, because I've just feel like I need to keep working at this a little bit. Again, I'll sign up for it well before I'm ready, because you'll never actually be ready. But I'm not sure. Maybe 2 years or somewhere, a couple years ish.
Cool.
Maybe we'll make it back to Javelina. I've always said, like, I couldn't do Javelina because it's so hot. But now that I've seen the terrain of some things, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll take the heat just to have that much better terrain of Javelina.
Yeah, Javelina's...
And that's so fun.
It does have heat, but also it's a desert, so you get the coolness too. Like,
at
it does
night,
switch.
yeah, but during the day, it's so hot. But anyway, we'll see. To be continued.
To be continued. All right. See you later.